Hello, lawyers and law students. I'm Catherine. This is my friend Rachel, and we're
Oh,
here to do, hello, we're here to do our legal English podcast, which means it's a bit more informal than one of my usual lessons, but we're going to speak about some very serious legal vocabulary today. I bet half of our viewers have just left because I said that. But I think it's quite nice, interesting vocabulary, and it's stuff every lawyer should know. So if you're making yourself a coffee or you're just walking around your apartment, you don't have to watch us, but you should listen because this is valuable. That right, Rachel?
it certainly is. I have no idea what we're talking about today, but it certainly is.
Look, everything I say is always valuable, you know that.
Yes.
We're talking about legal owner and beneficial owner, and that is vocabulary that often appears in commercial contracts drafted in English. And we have to go a little bit into the law to explain fully what it means. So, are you ready for a deep dive into law to
I am.
discuss legal owner and beneficial owner? Can I say to our listeners and viewers, we will be doing some strange and unusual legal vocabulary today, but don't worry, we will make sure that the subtitles spell everything absolutely correctly. So if you read the subtitles, you're going to have the weird spellings of some of these words. So, Rachel,
Yes.
we're going to explain legal owner and beneficial owner. First, I'm going to do a quick dictionary type definition that probably nobody will understand, but we should start there before we explain with a story. Um, I've brought a little Buddha from my bathroom, and this is going to be important because we're going to sell it under a contract. We're going to pretend it's worth, should we say, £1.5 million?
Oh, very expensive.
Why not? Why not? Um, and if that object has a legal owner, it means in the eyes of the law, that legal owner has title to that item, that little Buddha that I've brought. And if you have title to something, the law says you are the owner. However, if there's also a beneficial owner of the same object, the legal owner's got kind of a bad deal because, yeah, they have title to it, they own it, they can probably buy, sell, dispose of it how they want, but they are not entitled to the benefit, the advantage
Okay.
that comes from that object. Someone else gets the benefit.
Okay.
So that's my best try at a dictionary definition of a legal owner and a beneficial owner. But we're going to look at it more deeply now by talking for a few minutes about the common law on trusts. Are you still awake?
I'm still awake. I'm still here. Still going.
Viewers, are you still awake? Because this bit is quite nice. Rachel, I know it's difficult, but can you pretend I'm 85 years old?
Yes, I can.
It's a bit too quick. Okay,
Sorry.
today for 5 minutes, I'm 85 years old and I'm rich. How am I rich? What are my assets? Now, assets are things that I own that are worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Examples of assets are shares in companies, money in the bank,
Hmm.
land and houses, and antique objects I'm pointing to her. Antique objects that are worth £1.5 million. I've got a lot of assets. What do you think of this, Rachel? Under the common law in England, I am not obliged by law to leave any of that property at all to my two children. If I've got a terrible relationship with them, they're all out of luck. They have to be nice to me. So I know in a lot of other legal systems, there's a legal requirement that your children get at least something. But we don't have that. What do you
No.
think?
Is there any reason why?
I think this is probably treason for me to say this, but after years of teaching other nationalities in Cambridge, I've met young people from a lot of countries. They prioritise family,
Mhm.
we prioritise money.
Yeah, that
And
is.
you find that in a lot of different areas of law. Now, we're still talking about legal owner and beneficial owner,
Mhm.
but it's important to know in the law on trusts that as a rich old lady, I can behave really badly if I want to with my children. Now, in reality, I have the most fabulous children in the world, and I'd like to leave them £5 million each if I had it, but this is just imagination. I'm also not 85.
No.
I do, however, have one little granddaughter, aged 2,
Hmm.
who is the apple of my eye. I don't know how to say that in other languages. We say in English, the apple of my eye. Maybe you're the apple of your grandmother's eye. I know I was when I was little. I want her to get everything I've got. But I'm 85 and she's 2.
Hmm.
So when I write my will, which is the document that explains what I want to happen to my property after I die, I'm going to create a trust and say, the moment that I die, I do not want my children to inherit. I want my granddaughter to get everything.
Mhm.
The problem is she's still a baby.
Yeah.
So what does my lawyer do? My lawyer tells me, oh, you need to create a trust.
Mhm.
You need to name at least 2 people to look after and manage this property for your granddaughter until, how old would you say, Rachel?
18?
Oh no, 18-year-olds can't inherit. Look at what Prince Harry did
Yeah,
when he
that's
was
true.
18.
You say maybe 21?
I think 18's too young.
Yeah, maybe. Should we say
21?
21?
Let's say 21.
Yeah, it's a
So
bit
my
more
lawyer tells
sensible.
me, okay, you nasty rich old lady, giving your sons nothing. Now, why do you think, Rachel, you can be my law student, why do you think my lawyer tells me you need to name 2 people?
So if one of them mismanages it, it's counterbalanced. There's somebody else there to manage it if somebody else does it
Somebody
badly.
botching. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not even
somebody badly.
botching. What if they just say,
Yeah, I'm gonna take this, thank you.
take this and I'm off to Rio
Yeah.
for the rest of my life. So you can have more than 2 people, but you
Mhm.
must have at least 2.
Mhm.
So in this situation, we're going to get some vocabulary. What we have created here is a trust.
Mhm.
I am the person that puts property into the trust. The property is shares, land, houses.
Mm.
What else did we say? Money in the
Yeah.
bank and a lot of valuable antiques.
Mhm.
I am called the settlor. That's my name in legal English, the person who puts it in. And the moment you put something into a trust, even if you're alive when you do it, you are no longer the legal owner.
Okay.
Who now has title? Now, do you remember what title means?
Like
Means,
ownership?
ownership, legal ownership. Even if I'm still alive and I'm the settlor and I put all of my property into a trust,
Mm.
I instantly become no longer the owner. It's not mine. The trustees must have at least two get title to that property. They become the legal owner.
Okay.
So in the eyes of the law, that property now belongs to the two trustees.
Mm-hmm.
Got a big question for you now.
I don't like this.
I know you don't like it because it's always a trick question.
Always a trap.
Would you please, as a good friend of mine, when I die, become one of the two trustees for my granddaughter and manage that property for her until she's 21 years old, and that's when she gets it?
I feel like because it's a trap, can I say maybe? And let me find out what
It
the
is a trap.
caveats are.
Maybe. Would you like me to explain what could go horribly wrong if you
Yes,
say
please.
yes? Well, when you become a trustee, the law imposes upon you. You can't choose. It's put on you, imposed upon you, what we call a fiduciary duty. Fiduciary duty. It's the worst kind of duty imaginable. It means you have a legal duty to act in the best possible interests of someone else.
Okay.
And where there's a conflict of interest between what's good for you and what's good for them, guess what? You've got to put them first because you have a
Right.
fiduciary duty.
Okay.
The good news is, if you will accept that duty, you can become a paid trustee and not a volunteer. But really, to be a paid trustee, you should be an accountant or a lawyer. And you're not, are you?
No.
And you don't want to be. That would
No.
that would not be your dream job. So because you're my friend, you're probably a voluntary, unpaid trustee, but you're still accepting a fiduciary duty.
Yeah. A lot of responsibility.
Yeah. So if the other trustee is paid, that helps you quite a lot, because here's the bad news. You have a duty for 19 years, because my granddaughter's just 2.
Yeah.
To manage that property in her best interests.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment, you need to know the price of oil, the price of land, when to sell, when to buy. But the professional trustee, who is a lawyer or an accountant, will help you and guide you with that. But they need your agreement to behave the way they want to with that property. If they want to sell some shares, you have to say yes. One trustee cannot
Yeah.
do that, because you've got to be
Yeah.
watching each other. But when my granddaughter becomes 21, if she feels there has been a breach of the fiduciary duty, she can start legal action against the trustees.
Okay.
So becoming a trustee is no picnic.
Oh.
It's a big responsibility, and you might get sued at the end of it. So, do you want to be a trustee?
No, thank you. Very nice
Which
of
is the
you.
correct answer. Yes. Yes. I wouldn't do it either. It's a huge responsibility, unless you are very well paid.
Yeah.
And that's usually the people that become trustees.
Yeah.
So let's pretend for a moment you've agreed to be a trustee. You haven't. Just for the story. You
Okay.
and one other, okay? So you are now managing the property in the trust for my granddaughter, and we'll bring this back now. You get an offer. This is worth about £1.5 million,
Yeah.
which is more than 1.5 million US dollars. You know,
Yeah.
in reality, I think it was $9.99, but we'll pretend it's worth a lot. You get an offer from someone who collects items like this for 2 million. It's
Okay.
more than it's worth.
Mm.
So you and the other trustee agree to sell it. That benefits the beneficiary, my granddaughter, greatly. And of course, there'll be a written contract.
Yeah.
And in that written contract, the buyer needs the safety of all legal and beneficial owners agree to this sale.
Mm.
And you can see why the contract has to say legal and beneficial. The buyer does not want my 21-year-old granddaughter starting any legal action to get her property back. Now, how you get that agreement is going too deeply into law. You need to talk to a solicitor. So all our job today is to explain to our viewers and listeners the legal owner has title. In the eyes of the law, they are the owner. They do therefore have the right to sell it, but they are not entitled to the benefit that comes from it.
Yeah.
So in company law, when you're selling shares, you sometimes see a legal owner of shares and a beneficial owner of shares. And sometimes, just to confuse everyone, because legal English is the most terrible kind of English, a beneficial owner, my granddaughter, is sometimes called the equitable owner. Means the same thing. They shouldn't have two words, but they do. So let's just, before we continue, check that vocabulary. We've got the legal owner of property who has title to it in the eyes of the law. The beneficial owner gets the benefit of the property, usually the money. They are also sometimes called the equitable owner. Those two mean the same thing. The person who puts the property into the trust, do you even remember, or am I a terrible teacher?
Settlor.
A settlor. You see, I'm good at this, you see.
You are.
Settlor. You need 2 trustees to manage that property, but you can have 20 if you want. Just makes the meetings very much longer. And the type of duty that a trustee has, or any legal owner has, is called a fiduciary duty. That is a duty to always act in the best interests of the beneficiary, even if that conflicts with your own best interests. So I think the message is never be a trustee, but if you are, at least be a professional lawyer trustee and get paid very well by wicked old ladies who don't want to give anything to their children. I kind of understand it because some people do have awful children, but if we've got any Italians watching, they will be going absolutely crazy now because in Cambridge it's always the Italians who go the most crazy at this law. Right, very quickly, let's talk about charitable trusts because I've noticed when our students come to Cambridge, one of the things that surprises them is the number of charity shops.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain what a charity shop is? Because they're on every British high street, aren't they? And a lot of them.
Yeah, there's loads. If you go to any British high street at all, there are always like multiple of them. It's essentially a building that sells second-hand donated goods.
That's it, exactly. I've heard Americans in films talking about taking unwanted household stuff to the Goodwill.
Yeah,
And I don't know what that is, but I think that's the US equivalent of our charity
yeah,
shops. And the reason I'm talking about them is they illustrate perfectly legal owner, title, settlor, beneficial owner, because they are created as trusts.
yeah.
So let's change the role of this little thing. Now it's only worth $9.99 and I'm redecorating my bathroom and I don't want it. So I'm going to take it to the charity shop nearest to me, which is Cancer Research.
Mm.
Cancer Research is a British charity where people like me take stuff they don't want. What would you find in there? You find a lot of little things like
Yeah,
yoga, but what else?
clothes, books. I always go for the books.
Children's toys?
Children's toys. Like
Quite
usually some
often.
like suits, and you can occasionally find a wedding dress there.
You can, oh, that's awful, isn't it? When you
Always
find a
sad.
wedding dress in there. And a lot of kind of old, quite pretty cups and plates and tea
Yeah, like
sets and things like that.
porcelain.
And some people do make a living of searching the
Mm,
charity shops for real
yeah.
antiques and selling them online. Um, I've never found anything like that, but I always go into them like you to look at the books.
Yeah.
So when I take that down to Cancer Research, I become a settlor, I donate, and I'm no
Mhm.
longer the owner.
Yeah.
That charity has trustees that now, in the eyes of the law, own that, which means they can sell it.
Yeah.
And the money that comes in does not belong to the legal owner.
Hmm.
It has to be managed for the beneficiaries.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's cancer research scientists and people who
Yeah.
are being treated for cancer. So charity shops are a really good reflection. And I really like them. Do you? I
Oh, I
think
love
they're,
a charity shop.
yeah. So if you come to England, our listeners, or Scotland or Wales, anywhere in the UK, do have a look in charity shops. They're a really big part of our culture,
Yeah.
and they're a beautiful illustration of a legal owner and a beneficial owner. One thing to finish on that I want to complain about, Rachel.
Okay. I love this segment.
And I think you'll complain as well. So our law on charity comes from around the time of the Victorians. It's old law. And if you imagine Charles Dickens' books, children in orphanages, people sent to the poorhouse so they don't starve, the government created legislation, laws, to say if you donate money to certain types of charity, that charity will not pay tax because it's for the public good.
Okay.
So the categories were the poor, people with diseases, if you give money to that charity, like cancer research or
Yeah.
heart foundation research, doesn't pay tax. Animals, you can tell we're British. Animal charities. So, as a nasty old lady, if I want to bypass both of my sons, I could leave everything to the dogs trust. I do like my dogs actually, but luckily I do like my sons more. And these categories include education.
Oh,
Now that's a good thing when Charles Dickens was alive. Educate the children of the poor. But now, can you name some English schools where the parents pay maybe 35 or 40,000 pounds a year to educate their children, but they don't pay tax because they're charities. Go on, name some schools.
Oh God, Cambridge?
No, that's a university. You need
That's
some
the
more.
university. I need
Do
school.
you need? Do you know the name of the school where Prince William and Prince Harry went to school?
Was it Eton?
It's Eton, Eton, Eton School, Eton College,
Yeah.
Harrow. Now we call them public schools, which is confusing because we like to confuse other nationalities learning English. A public school in England is a very expensive private school. The real public schools, we call them state schools.
Yeah.
And I went to a state school and you went to a state school, and thank goodness for it, because the public school boys have been Prime Minister quite often and made a real mess, Boris Johnson. Talking about Eton people, David Cameron, yeah, a huge number of our Prime Ministers have been to that one public school, which is an expensive private school. And none of them have changed the law on trusts and charities to make those schools pay tax. What do you think, Rachel? I know what you think, but tell me.
Of course they haven't. Why would they? Why would they?
Why would they? I know.
Why would they?
I know. So the final point is, if you're a tax lawyer, if you can find a way for your client's business to fit into one of the categories of educational trust or some other kind of trust, there are tax advantages.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. So I hope everyone listening now knows what a legal owner is, doesn't particularly want to be it, and one day I wish you all becoming a beneficial owner, none of the work, all of the advantages, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.
Bye bye.